So I think we can go ahead. Let's start.
Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now. The Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now. The Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now.
Okay, Sabrine, you're fine?
C'est parti.
1, 2, 3. Hello, today it's Radio Entrepreneurship by INSEAD Alumni. It's been a long time, yes, very, very busy time, but we had some good reason to wait. First, because Sabrine is back again, and this is
Yes,
great.
hello everybody. I'm happy to be with you again. How are you, Gilles?
I'm very fine because I have great stuff to share with many people. First, it's about this wonderful INSEAD Entrepreneurship Summit that we plan to do in Barcelona in October. Can you tell us just a little bit more about the wonderful lineup that the whole team is preparing right now?
So I can tell you only few information because I want everyone to be teased, by what I'm going to say. But for the INSEAD Entrepreneurship Forum IEF 2018, that will take place from the 26th, 27th of October, we will have the chance to get a great theme, which is excellent execution. It's exactly what all entrepreneurs need to know and what they need to do, to build up a successful company. We're going to have great speakers. We're going to have incredible panels. And well, if you want more information, just go on our website and wait for our communication coming soon.
Okay, I have problems to speak. It looks very promising. This is nice. So this was the first reason. The second reason is obviously because of our great guest of today, who is Anna Ravanona, I'm sorry. And I'm going to cut the I'm sorry, don't worry, we can do all this type of stuff. So I'm very pleased that we welcome Anna Ravanona. So Anne is, thank you, Sabrine, because you introduced me to Anne. And since we started to discuss, I understand why you really wanted her to be our next guest at the radio. So Anne, I'm very pleased to say hello to you, to meet you. Obviously, I've checked your biography on LinkedIn, and actually it's very difficult to summarize it, and I'm not going to even try. I think the best thing that you have to do is to talk about yourself. So Anne, can you introduce yourself, please?
With great pleasure. First of all, thank you so much, Gilles and Sabrine, for inviting me today. I am honored and excited to be here on INSEAD Radio Entrepreneurship. So I am a complex lady. I am a complex global lady. I am half Irish, half Spanish, living and working in France for 24 years, very proudly so, and married to a Frenchman, and with 2 bilingual children, very happy here. And basically, I am super passionate about helping women entrepreneurs get funded. I want to help smash the $300 billion funding gap that exists between men and women. And it's something that I have decided to dedicate the rest of my life to doing. Now, obviously, I can't close that gap by myself. It's not what I'm suggesting. But I really, really am passionate about raising awareness about the issue, helping create solutions for it, and bring people in the ecosystem together. I didn't always start off that way. I didn't always know what my passion was going to be. So I started off, I've had like a 22-year career before that, doing many different things in consulting, in leadership development, management training, in employer branding, and in global sales, basically, and working all the time for smaller companies serving big global multinationals. So I learned about global business, serving those big companies, and learned to understand the corporate cultures, different sectors, and all that cool stuff. And so I've built this whole career, and then I decided that when I turned 40, yes, I passed 40, but I'm still here and planning on going further. So when I turned 40, I decided that I needed to really do what I'm passionate about. And that is, I wanted to bring together women in leadership, global business, and to solve a real problem. And I didn't know what that was yet until one day I went to London, and my aha moment was I went to an event organized by the Cherie Blair Foundation. And Cherie Blair, Tony Blair's wife, and a great woman herself, a lawyer and leader in her own right. She set up a foundation to help women entrepreneurs in developing countries. And I happened to be there, and there was a woman from London who was speaking, and I was in the audience, and I asked her what was her greatest challenge. And she said it was access to funding. And this light bulb went off in my head. I said, what? Is it harder for women to raise money than men? I had no idea. Got curious, first of all. And so I started to read the research, and I started to read research by the IFC that talked about this $300 billion funding gap for women entrepreneurs across developing countries and across the world. And I was blown away. That one statistic made me angry then. So I went from curious to angry, and I decided to do something about it, because my greatest value is equality between men and women, equal opportunity and respect. And I'm like, when there's that big a gap, you're not getting the most out of the greatest untapped resource in the world, which I believe it happens to be women, because we haven't had the same access to opportunity. And so I decided to do something about it. And the other reason as well, Gilles, is because I'm a mother of two teenagers, a girl and a boy. And, the hard truth is, if they both went to get funding today, my son would be 70% more likely to get funded just because of his gender. He doesn't even have to be good. And he's white and he's male. And that bothers me. So I decided to set up Global Invest Her. I had never done anything in the funding industry before. I just saw a problem, and I really wanted to help be part of the solution. And so I started out by trying to find out more about how big a problem this was, for whom. So I read more research, yes, which was very useful. But then I started to talk to female founders, and I interviewed about 250, 300 women entrepreneurs from around the world. And I asked them, what was it like for them to raise funding? What was their funding journey like? And so many of them said to me that it was such an intimidating process, that it felt like a dark art. It's like black magic, a dark art. And they were super intimidated by it, that they were not being taken seriously by the male investors they were pitching to. And quite a lot of them were very disheartened, because they had, great businesses. They needed money to fuel it, and they weren't getting taken seriously. So that's, in a long story short, why I set up Global Invest Her. And I also do a lot of public speaking on the topic to raise awareness, because, a lot of people don't know that this exists. They don't know it's a problem. And I want to help spread the word. So I've done a first TEDx called Spread Your Talent to the World in 2015 in Barcelona. I'll be doing my next one at TEDx INSEAD in June this year. I'm so excited and really, I speak in tech conferences, entrepreneurship conferences around the world, to share the fact that, hey, this is the world of funding today. These are the issues when it comes to funding for female founders. And why do those issues exist, and what can we do to change that? So I'm going to pause there, because I don't want to hog all the conversation, but I can go on forever about this, Gilles and Sabrine. You know me, so I'll pause there.
But that's very interesting, because we understand now why you decided to do something, and it's very inspirational. My very basic question would be, can you explain us concretely what is Global Invest Her?
Sure. So we are a platform and a global community to help early stage women entrepreneurs learn about funding so that they can get investor ready. So we primarily serve women entrepreneurs who have mainly set up their businesses. They're all over the world, and they're early stage. So they're looking for angel or seed funding, the very first funding for their business, up to Series A, which can get into several million. And what we want to do is demystify the whole funding process, break it down, that funding success path, so they can see, here are the key steps I need to go on. In each step, here are the key milestones I need to reach, and here are the actual actions I need to do. So we want to break it down with practical advice from the people who know about this stuff. So namely funded women, the women who've raised the money themselves, and other investors, so the people they're pitching to. So we really are an online platform where you can get educated, you can learn about this stuff, you can connect, you can learn, you can connect with other female founders, with investors through our webinars, and you can prepare, you can get ready. So that's what we do. We help you learn, connect, and prepare to get investor ready.
Okay, so it's a platform. So you work with women all around the world. What about the situation worldwide? I guess that there are places where it's even worse than in some others. Is it the same problem in the US or in Europe or in Asia, where it's the people where most startups actually are right now, Middle East as well? Do you see differences, cultural differences, or is it just really the same, just because it's mostly because it's male guys working in VCs, or it's mostly men who are investors, and there are finally few female angels? What's the situation, and what's your point of view about this?
Okay, so I think the first thing to remind our audience, Gilles, is like, how big is the problem? So I said it's $300 billion funding gap, which is the equivalent of like 3/4 the value of Facebook. You know, that's what makes me mad. It's like we use Facebook like 2 billion, I don't know how many billion we use it all over. And that's the amount of money that's not going towards funding really good services and businesses created by women. Now, the reasons behind that, how does that actually translate into real life? Today, around 10% of total venture capital worldwide goes to female founders. And of that 10%, only 2.2% goes to women-only founder teams. Guess how much goes to male-only founder teams? 79%. 2.2%, 79%. So that gap is huge, and it's ridiculous in my mind, because, you know, for me, what I see is that it's an opportunity loss. We talk about opportunity costs. For me, this is an opportunity loss, because the investors, both male and female, are not, you know, seeing and investing in the potential that women founders can bring. And I'm not in any way suggesting that we invest in women because they're women. That's not what I'm saying. We invest in great companies, full stop. But we have to be able to see them and hear them. And, you know, women and founders of color, it's less than 1% who get VC funding. And you'd say, okay, why does that exist? So one of the key issues, the reason why that exists, is because we don't have enough female founders, the female investors. Today, basically, 92% of all venture capitalists are men worldwide, 92%. And you've only about 20% of business angels worldwide are women, excuse me. So only 20% of women business angels, only 8% of venture capitalists are women. So, you know, if the people who are making the decisions are mainly white, male, middle-aged men, what tends to happen, Gilles, is that they invest in what they know and feel comfortable with, who tends to be white, male, middle-aged, or young guys in hoodies who went to the same class as them. And there are differences, I would say, around the world. In some places, you know, there are more women entrepreneurs, because of course people say to me, but Anne, it's a pipeline issue. It's always a bloody pipeline issue with women, isn't it? With never enough women, which is loads of rubbish, because we all know there are incredibly talented women in leaders in corporates and in businesses as well as in startups. It's just that they're not being seen, they're not being asked and invited to the table. So there are differences in women looking for funding around the world. Of course, the most mature funding markets would be North America and Europe, developed countries. Of course, they're the ones who've had most time at investing. And you're absolutely right, Gilles. Where's the big hotspot? It's Asia. And I think we need to kind of keep our eyes wide open, because the first billion-dollar funds are in Asia. And, you know, if we're not careful, the world is going to be completely unbalanced. And you know, this Western superiority, I think we all are very much aware as business people, that no longer exists. It's actually still a myth. It's just a matter of time as to when people will cop on that that's real. That basically the shift of power is going to the East. And, you know, there are cultural differences as well for women in Latin America. It can be harder for them to get funded, because even the fact that they are women entrepreneurs can be frowned upon by their families. And in Latin America, women can tend to, first of all, look for funding with their friends and family. They don't even dare to go for bank loans, or don't even dare to go for angel investors. And when they look for angels, they're all guys, and they're not in that network. So that's a challenge. In Europe, you know, the biggest funding markets that we see, of course, are France, UK, Germany, then actually Holland, Luxembourg, and so on. So each of those markets has its own particularities. And, you know, even in France, the number of funding, the level of funding towards women entrepreneurs is stagnant. It's not getting better. And I think that we need to work on several things. We need to work on getting more women investors, so exciting more women to enter this field and to consolidate the number of women around the world who are investing. Get more men to realize they could be making loads of money as well by investing in women-led companies who happen to serve 51% of the global population, i.e. women. So, and I think, so we need to get more women investors, we need more men to invest in women, and we need to have more women entrepreneurs ask for the money, for the bigger money. It's a complex issue. It's not all black and white, and it's not, oh, it's all the bad white male investors. It's not.
So, Anne, you were saying that there is a lack of visibility, you know, for women entrepreneurs. Maybe there is a question of proportion, you know, the number of women entrepreneurs, and as you said, you know, not many women investors or women VC, or could you let us know, you know, thanks to your expertise, what are the greatest challenges that female founders face when they are looking for funding?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to remind ourselves, number one, that worldwide, between 27 and 30% of new businesses every year are created by women. So it's kind of stagnating at around 30%, a third, a third, a third. It's this magic, you know, when you get to 30%, it's going to be a tipping point. So in some parts of the world, like in Africa and Rwanda, that hits 40%. It's incredible the amount of entrepreneurship that's happening there. And the challenges that women entrepreneurs face is they are quite wide. I think the first one is unconscious bias. This is what I was talking about, that pattern recognition. So it's unconscious bias in the head of male investors, because they just, A, are not exposed to very many great female founders. B, they don't go looking for them because they're comfortable with the guys club. And C, very often what I hear so many female founders say as what are those biases, the first bias is that if you're a female founder, hold on, what if you get pregnant and have a child? How serious are you about running this company? You can't do both at the same time, which of course we can. We're just wired differently to men, and we actually can. Women can. Men don't understand that we can, but we can. And this isn't a stereotype. This is things we've actually shown and proven in our On the Moment online training course about navigating unconscious bias when pitching to male investors. So these are real things. It's not just stereotype. So this unconscious bias exists. And what is bias? Bias is about making decisions based on perception, not fact. And so a lot of male investors may perceive women who have children not to be serious, not to be full-time dedicated to the business. And if they don't have children yet, if they're young and don't have children yet, the question a lot of female founders get, so when are you going to have a child? I'm like, they never ask that question to the guys. If you're a father and you're a startup founder, there's no question that you can run a business. So that unconscious bias is there. The other one is like, women are more risk averse. Now that again is a perception and a bias. It's actually not true. We have more in common with men when it comes to taking risk. It's just that, and there have been, economists, global economists who have actually studied the research on risk taken between men and women. And we found that the standard deviation between men and women taking risk, it's about 1. It's really small, which means we've so much more in common than we think. And what the difference is that women are not risk averse, they are risk aware. And what that difference is that we make decisions based on a lot more information than a lot of men do. And it's because of the way our brains are wired. This is what's fascinating about the neuroscience piece, is, we actually retain a lot more detail. And therefore, when we're making a decision, we're going to make a decision on the kind of 360 degrees versus maybe 90 or 180 that the guys will. And therefore, the guys will jump into action, which of course is a positive thing. It's not a negative thing. I'm not in any way saying that's a bad way of doing business. It's just that sometimes they miss a big part of the picture. And so we women may take longer to make a decision. And it's because we have probably considered a lot more about the impact. So that's a fascinating thing about this unconscious bias. And we share a lot about that in our Own the Moment online training. But then also the other challenges, I think, for female founders is that we can hold ourselves back. We don't actually ask for enough money. We can feel very self-conscious and maybe lack a bit of confidence. And to be honest, that does come across the world. Again, and I want to reassure the women, it's not that we're less confident per se, it's that we have kind of a bigger worry center in our brains. Again, we think more about stuff. We think more deeply about stuff. So we're going to question ourselves a lot more than guys. And so women entrepreneurs also need to kind of jump in a lot more and not be afraid to make mistakes and not try to be perfect. And we can tend to be perfect. And when we do look for funding, we oftentimes don't ask for enough the first time round, because when we give those projections, the first round you're looking for funding, most investors will ask for a 3-year projection because that beyond that, and even that, it's still hypothetical. And the difference between men and women looking for funding is that the guys will go in with super big projections and very optimistic and sell the big picture vision, and the women will go in with figures that usually are maybe half as big, but they're sure they'll make them because they don't want to disappoint the investor. They want to make sure they will give them. So we go at this differently. And I think when we start to understand each other better and then take those differences into account, we can try and eliminate some of the bias. So I think one key thing is that unconscious bias in the heads of male investors and in the heads of female founders. The other one is we don't have enough women investors, and I've spoken about that already. I think one of the reasons we don't is that, again, a lot of women simply don't see themselves as investors. They don't even consider that as a track because, very often we don't have enough role models, whether it is women entrepreneurs, women investors. If I ask you, Gilles and Sabrine, to give me the name of 3 top global women entrepreneurs, could you do it? No. If I asked you the name of 3 top global male entrepreneurs, could you do it? Absolutely. Because they're revered in the press, aren't they, Gilles?
Actually, I can give the name of 3 female entrepreneurs, but because I know so many things.
I love it. So give those names. Shine a light on those women. Go on, tell us who they are.
That's Gilles. He's so apart.
I love it.
No, I can't. Also, you mean the names, or that's the trick? I've been trapped. I'm trapped. Okay. No. I'm not sure. I can give you the names of the companies, but the names of these entrepreneurs, I'm not sure I can actually. This is terrible.
And it's not. You're not doing it on purpose, Gilles. I know you're not doing it on purpose. It's that, and that's also the key thing.
You caught me off guard. Okay, I have one, Kelly Choi, who is the co-founder of Kelly Daily, which is a fantastic company. What's this name of this INSEAD wonderful girl who created Nick Swear? Griffiths, yeah, absolutely, that's the name. And there is this French female entrepreneur who created Mango Pay and
Lychee.
what is her name? Oh, la, la, la. Okay.
Lychee and Mango Pay.
Zero. I'm done.
I'm going to put
yes, exactly. Yes.
And if I say to you both, give me the names of 3 global male entrepreneurs, who would you name?
Myself first.
Of course.
We said global, Gilles.
I speak French too. So 3, okay, well, of course we can, no problem.
Yeah, so like, there's Elon Musk, there's Steve Jobs, there's Richard Branson.
And so on and so on.
What about Sarah Blakely, who created $1 billion company from no funding? She built it from 0 to $1 billion company. Sarah Blakely, Spanx, that super underwear that sucks in all the things you don't want to show for women. Sarah Blakely, $1 billion.
One of the most well-known, I think, female entrepreneur is, and I know it might be a bad example, is the founder of Thanatos. And what's the name of this company in the US?
Theranos.
Thanatos.
Not tomatoes, Theranos.
No, Theranos, almost got it.
But I don't think that's a good example because unfortunately...
I'm rubbish today. I'm very sorry.
It's okay, Gilles. You need some more coffee. We're going to give you the coffee. Sabrine and I are the energy here, boosters.
In fact, everything you said gave me, I don't know if you know, but some months ago we received here someone called Evelyn Bushatsky. She's an INSEAD lady, alumni who runs an investment fund in the US. This fund is not focusing on women entrepreneurs, but on migrant entrepreneurs. Because she noticed that a little bit like what you say, in the US, in fact, the companies where the team is created with one American person and someone from another country seems to be way more successful than just 100% pure American founders. But the fact is, the VCs actually invest in what they know, and it's exactly what you described. So they invest in teams made of 100% American made. You said before as well that people don't invest in female founders who are alone by themselves, and they tend to do it for men, which I think anyway is not a very good idea either, because I think it's very of course you've got examples where it's not like this, but I think that an entrepreneur is by himself makes things even more difficult. That it's probably easier when you are in team. So do you think that a team of a co-founder who is a man and a co-founder who is a woman might be the best, at least an interesting option to bring the best of the world? What do you think?
I think so, definitely. And all the better if they are, so mixed genders, mixed ethnic backgrounds or cultural backgrounds or ages or levels of experience. The key word there, Gilles, is diverse. Because when we're different, we bring different points of view to an issue, and we will help add new perspectives to something. And therefore, we can get to the problem, I think, in a more interesting way and serve more people. Because the reality is that in our world, we are diverse. Our everyday world, we're all different. And so I think it's very important that, in the statistics I shared with you earlier, it's not just female solo founders, what I was talking about, that get 2.2%. It's like female only founder teams get 2.2%. Male only founders, so we can have 2 or more founders. Male only founders get 79%. So even that doesn't, the balance again is wonky. That's what we're saying. So yes, I totally believe that diversity wins. And I love age diversity. Get the millennials reverse mentoring older people. It's fantastic. I mean, we have a social media intern who's in her early 20s, and she's like, boom, off she goes. She learns this stuff really fast. She jumps in. I love her energy. And, you know, she teaches me stuff every day, and that's cool. We also have someone on our team who's in Indian super PhD in biology and in molecular biology, and she's there helping us to get the word out on our Facebook. Like, it's like super diverse. You know, creativity comes from diversity. That's the thing. Creativity and innovation comes from diversity, and the research from Harvard Business School has proven that, and more, you know, research around the world from McKinsey also in big companies is showing that more diverse teams, when you've got more women on the board of a big company, it actually shows in the bottom line. Is when you start to have 3 women, like 30% women on the board or more, you start to see the difference that gender diversity brings. And that's super interesting, because that's the biggest form of diversity in the world, the difference between men and women and how we think. So, yeah.
And going back to Global Investor, can you give us concrete examples of how you help female founders? I mean, you, Global Investor, how the platform provides support, what are you proposing, what different types of help you're offering?
Yeah, great. So we have different levels and types of help for different people. So we do a lot of educational stuff. So part of what we offer are webinars. We offer free webinars to women with interviews with female founders who've raised money who share their funding journey. So you can actually learn from exactly how they did it. We do interviews with investors, male and female, so you can learn. So we try to demystify, these are real people, and you can call in, you can ask them questions live and have a conversation and see, oh, okay, this is what they're looking for. At the end of the day, going for investment is really about selling and serving customers, and your investors are kind of your partners and they're part of your customer, in the sense that you want to woo them and win them over to your vision and get them on your team and find the right partners for you. So we offer webinars that are free, and we have an upcoming webinar wall where you can just come and buy access to the recording of the webinar you missed, because you really want to get value from that. We have a mentoring program. So our online mentoring program, it is global, and it lasts 6 months. So for $599, you can get a mentor for 6 months. It's like $100 a month to be matched with somebody who is going to be there for you 2 hours a month to help you think through your funding strategy, what you need to know. And they can be mentors from corporates, they can be from accelerator programs, they can be previous founders, and we carefully match you with them. Okay, so we have a super algorithm that helps us, and of course it's human at the end. Plus you get lots of access to resources, articles, blogs, etc., that can help you on the funding journey. Then the other thing we have is our Own the Moment online program. So we've just launched it, which is super exciting, and I was talking about those gender differences. This is a program that it's self-paced learning, so you can do this as much as you want over 1 year. You have a year access, unlimited access to it. And in 6 modules, we break down how can you navigate that unconscious bias that we were talking about. Like, we actually give you the practical tips. So we cover things like, what is this world of funding today? So some of the things I mentioned earlier. So we give you the context, and then we say, okay, what are those blind spots in the head of male investors and in the head of female founders? And how does that apply to the pitch? And then we go deeper into the neuroscience. So we've partnered with John Fayette, who is a gender awareness specialist in the US, and he has co-written 3 books on this topic. And he goes into literally the different parts of the brain, how it affects decision-making, how it affects our reasoning, how it affects memory. And then we say, okay, why does the 10-minute pitch work for men and doesn't work for women? How do men and women entrepreneurs approach the pitch differently? And once we've laid out all that context, we bring it all together and say, right, now, what are those practical key tips with all you've just learned How are you going to do your things differently in your pitch? What are you going to do before, during, and after to adapt and to be able to navigate that bias? So instead of, for the female founder, trying to turn themselves into a man, that's just impossible, a white man, and we don't want them to do that. How can you authentically own that moment when you're pitching instead of being scared of it? We want you to own it. So we give you practical tips to do that through short videos. You have super templates and lots of extra resources. So that's our Own the Moment program that's available now. Check our Twitter, all our social media. You're going to hear me screaming about it because I'm so excited to share that with the world. And we have a membership program. So our membership program is really for the women who want to understand that whole funding process, how all these things fit in. What are the key steps you need to take, the key milestones and the actions you need to take? So we have a monthly membership program, and we're going to begin relaunching it very, very soon. And inside that, you have access to the real funding journeys of women who have collectively raised $500 million. So you learn from the women who got the t-shirt, as we say, the women who actually did it. They give you a blow-by-blow account of how they did it, their challenges and how they overcame them, and their practical key tips for you. And then we also have exclusive interviews with investors from around the world. So you can come and do really cool investor research with us, because we have spoken to each of those investors for over an hour, and they've kind of given us loads of knowledge that they don't normally tell you. So they'll say things like, this is how I like to be approached. This is what I want in my first meeting. This is what I want before I invest. And these are key don'ts. Don't do this. Imagine if you could have all that knowledge before you're approaching that particular investor. You'd be armed very differently and go in much more confident. So our membership site is all about showing that funding success path. What are the key steps you need to make progress from knowing nothing about funding and feeling scared about it to knowing exactly what to do, doing it, and starting to see the results that you need. And through that membership, you will get access to fantastic bundles of content. So about different sources of funding, the access to those exclusive interviews, tips and tools and templates. So it's all practical. This is not an academic exercise. It's like, okay, what has worked? How can you learn from those women? Because we don't want you to reinvent the wheel. So we have, as I said, to recap, mentoring. That's 6 months, 2 hours a month. So you could be matched with anybody around the world. We have our online programs. The first one, which is the Own the Moment, to navigate unconscious bias. We have our membership, which is coming out, it's been rebranded. It's up there and alive now, and you come in there and you're going to see what fabulous goodness we're going to give you. We're going to love you so much and give you so much extra goodness you will not know. You will come out, I want to help create super confident women asking for the money they need and knowing what to do. And, to start off, join our free community. Go on globalinvesther.com. It says join community. It's free. You sign up just to tell us a bit about you and your funding journey. Join our Facebook community, and you can interact with hundreds of women around the world. And we want to show you that you can do it. So I believe it's like, yes, we can. Yes, we will get funded. So join your community to do it with us and come and fun. We're going to put the fun back into funding instead of making it scary.
About the investors, have you noticed, what do you say to the people you work with about male investors and female investors? Do they invest the same way? Do they look at the same thing or not? What is the differences that you identified?
So do they invest the same way? Absolutely. I mean, an investor, at the end of the day, they're in there to get a financial return. Depending on the type of investor they are, whether they're an angel or VC, they're very different animals, if you will, if you want to call them that. This very different type of investor. Do women and men invest differently? It's a really good question. I'm not sure that there's a huge difference. At the end of the day, I mean, you can't say that women investors will invest in women and give them an easier deal just because they're women. That's definitely not the case.
Oh, no, it's absolutely not what I was thinking. It's rather, in France, most business angel clubs are run by men, and they are communities of male, actually. There is one French angel club called Femme Business Angel. I guess you know them. And I know, because I discussed, I know some women who are part of it. And I discussed with several men of other clubs, and some wonder why they didn't really understand why it was required to create a special female angel organization, because they said it's even better if you come in our clubs and bring your sensitivity, your point of view, in order to make ourselves change, instead of doing something on the side. Actually, I have no real point of view about this. I don't know. It's just that I don't know how does it work in other countries. Do you have like separated? It's female investors on one side and male in other places. There is no way that they can work together.
Oh, I think there are definitely ways. I mean, in most funds, it's mainly guys. I mean, that's the reality. Okay, in VC funds, we talked about the stats earlier. Can they work together? Absolutely. Is the funding world conducive to making women feel comfortable and welcome? No, it's an all-male club. And what is happening is the women who've made it to the top, who've become managing partners or general partners, or even lead partners, LPs in funds, there comes a time when they get frustrated and they just go off and they create their own funds. So we're seeing, like last year in the US, I think there was over 30 new funds that were set up by women VCs to fund women, and not just fund women, but they created their own funds because they were sick of the old boys club. So to answer your question, Gilles, do men and women invest differently? I mean, technically, in putting the money in the company to get a return, they both look at they both do due diligence. They both, sit on the boards and make sure. But the way we do it is different, and the way our networks are very different. And when you look at the funds, on the board of those funds, they're very small and they're mainly guys. And they when they're thinking of an empty spot, it's like, who do I know? Who do I know? Who's in my circle? And more often than not, they're not women in that circle. I don't want to say it's generic all over the world, but I'm seeing, honestly, I don't think it's good to have a complete separation that's all men on one side, all men on. I don't think that's right. I think we're going to do better by having mixed teams. However, like with quotas in recruitment and getting women leaders in big companies, I don't like quotas, but I like what quotas do. Meaning, when you put an objective and a target, people start to pay attention to that, and they start to take actions and behave differently to move those figures, to see things moving forward. And we've seen quotas work very effectively for women in boards in public companies. Here in France, we went from 7% to 40% in the space of, I think, 5 or 6 years, because we had a government objective for that. For women on boards of public companies. In the Nordics, we know that they're really world leading in that fact. But, if women have had to go and set up their own funds, it's because, they're not always feeling fully heard or feeling fully welcomed in the old guys in the team. And that's because we don't have enough women. I think when we have at least 30% of women or more in each of, in the decision making of funds, or at the table of 30% or more angels in angel networks, then you won't need the special space, Gilles. The special space for women is because often they don't feel that they can be themselves, because they don't feel they're taken seriously. And we also know there's a huge phenomenon of men interrupting women and mansplaining. This is a fact across the world, not just in funding. Because just there's more guys in the business world. It's a male model of business that exists for over 100 years. And it's just that our time is now. There's more, the time for bringing more women in to create more value, it's now. So until we have more women investors at a greater scale, we're going to need those women funds. We're going to need those women networks, more of them, to get more women into the system. And we also, what my message is to male investors is listen, Ask your male friends about what are the cool women founders they've seen. They don't even ask that question. It never comes up. So I say, start asking your friends about who, your investor friends, who are the great women that you're seeing. And start, when you go to panels, make sure there's always one woman investor or female founder on that panel, one or two. It's better there's not one token woman. But I think making things very easy and break it down for the investors is to say, and start counting. Like a lot of the male investors that I've interviewed, I asked them, how many women have they invested in? How many women are led companies are in their portfolios? They can't answer. I say, how many women have you seen pitching this year? Of the 2,000 companies you've seen? They can't answer. They're not even counting. So if you don't count, you don't exist. So I think putting some figures there to encourage all of us, not just men, but to encourage us to start counting and be counted can help change things.
Actually, I have two questions in one. My first one would be, you're talking about the figures and counting. Would you be able to let us know if you saw an evolution of the female founders, of women pitching? Do you see an evolution? Do you see a good evolution? And my second question is linked to the investors, because as you say, it's pretty difficult, to find investors. How can we all become investors?
Two really good questions. I think the first one, Sabrine, is, have I seen an evolution in the number of women pitching and things moving forward for women? Absolutely. And that's good news.
Yes, indeed.
Thank bloody goodness. I set up Global Investor in 2013. And when I started, I had a Google alert. And I said, any article that come up for funding, investing in women, send me an article. And in 2013, I would get maybe one article a month, 2 articles a month. Today, I get 4 or 5 articles a day. That's it's become exponential. The Me Too and the fact that we see, women are speaking up about sexual harassment in funding and investing as well, has had a very positive effect. Positive and negative. Negative because I don't want male investors to suddenly feel scared to talk to women founders. That's not what we want, okay? It's just that we need them to act as if they were talking to their wives or their mothers or their sisters and treat them that way, okay? I think that's an easy thing to think when you're talking to a female founder. So yes, we're seeing more women pitching, not enough. There is an evolution, but it's not, we're not there yet, Sabrine. So we see more women pitching. We're seeing more women funds being created to fund women, which is fantastic. Definitely, that has exploded over the past 2 years. We see more women role models in the media. Thank goodness. We didn't see that many before. And I started interviewing women leaders, entrepreneurs and investors in 2012 and started publishing those interviews that I call Trailblazing Women in the Huffington Post since 2014. And now I'm publishing them on Medium. And the point is, we need to see what we can be. So I have seen definitely more women role models, and there's more, when tech conferences are thinking of speakers, they know they can't get away with all male panels anymore. That has definitely changed. So when I went to Web Summit, for example, in Dublin in maybe 2014, the first thing they did was, for women, was they had a women leaders lunch. We were 250 women in a hotel beside the Web Summit, which had like 40,000 people in it. We were 250 women leaders in an aside, lovely hotel, and the event wasn't even published on their website. And the speaker was like, we had Padma Warrior, who is the CTO of Cisco Systems Worldwide. She was one of the speakers. I mean, the speakers were phenomenal. And we were literally put in a box on the side, not even counted. And after that, every time I'd get any kind of promotional material from Web Summit, I would say, where are the women? Where are the women? I just reply, where are the women? Where are the women? Where are the women? And then after that, in the 2 years that followed, they came up with a Women in Tech campaign where they gave away 10,000 free tickets to female founders, which was great. I think that's good. Does it fix the issue? No. And because also it's a double-edged sword. I mean, women don't feel like we're not a charity case either, you know. Yeah, we need to attract more women in. But they still, and not just them, tech conferences, pitch competitions still have a problem with having a balanced number of women speakers. I saw a blockchain conference that's happening in Berlin this summer, and I counted the number of women. There were only 8 women speakers out of like 50 or 60 or more male speakers. And unfortunately, you know, that's still the case. So I am seeing conference organizers, panels, more role models in the media, more women funds, more pitches and events for women, loads more meetups. So that has exploded, and that is very positive. And again, back to Gilles' point, I wish and work for the day where that will no longer be necessary. We can still have those things for women on the side where women who are interested or whatever can get together. But I wish for the day when we won't need them. When it comes to how can we all become investors, I think that's very exciting. I think the number one is we can all become investors, and I would say investors, as in investor women. Is by now you know that I'm a very strong feminist in the sense of the word, meaning I really believe and live equal opportunity between men and women and equal respect for men and women. So I'm a super feminist for that. So how can we all become investors? Number one, use the power of our purse. Use your credit card. As in, when you're buying products and services, be more mindful and say, who is the founder in this? And there is actually a website and an app, a free app on the App Store you can find called Gender Fair, F-A-I-R. And it lists the companies, big corporates and startups that have policies and do things that are fair for women, you know, so they're female friendly and so on. So be more mindful of where you're spending your money. And if you want to support women, buy their products, buy their services, just go and do it. You can do that now. You don't have to wait for that. You can also become a mentor. Become a mentor to other entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs, because the word invest, actually, there are 2 meanings to it in the dictionary. The first one is what we all know, is put your money into a venture to make a financial return. Okay, we get that. But the other meaning of the word invest is to put your time, your energy, and your resources into a project to get a worthwhile result. Your time, your energy, your resources, your network. That's investing to get a positive result. So you can do that by mentoring other entrepreneurs and female founders as well, diverse and female founders. So give your time, open your networks, introduce them to people. If you are working in a corporate and you know of a female founder who needs to get into that corporate, and you can help mentor them, explain this is the process to get into a big corporate, this is the sales cycle, etc. Give them tips. And I would say the other thing is, also if you want to kind of step a toe in funding and step a toe in investing, do crowdfunding. Start off by reward-based crowdfunding. If you see a product or service that's female-led or an entrepreneur that you're interested in, have a look and invest in it. You know, make a donation or get a reward, buy their product or fund that already on a normal reward-based crowdfunding. That's easy to do. You can put in a very small amount, test it out. And if you want to go even further, check out the equity crowdfunding websites. And there are several around Europe. The founding equity crowdfunding, where you put in money and get a percentage of the company, that founding company is called Crowdcube, and they're based in the UK. But you can invest in companies based in the UK, Ireland, Spain. I think hopefully they come to France soon. But check out equity crowdfunding as well. And I would say, so that's the power of the purse, become a mentor, check out equity crowdfunding. The next thing is, if you want to become an investor, start going to startup events, go to pitch events, start stepping into that world, start seeing, what are the sectors that I'm interested in? Because when you become an angel investor to start off with, you're investing your personal money in a startup and your time and energy. you want to make sure it's in a sector that you're passionate about, that you know something about, and that you want to learn a lot about, and that you really want to give your time to too. So start going to those startup events and pitch competitions. Watch the pitches, note the questions the investors ask, see how they do it. And the final thing, if you want to go even further, is actually do some training. There are now great online training courses to learn how to become an angel, to learn how to become a venture capitalist. If you are a woman who wants to learn how to become an angel, there's a great online boot camp by 37 Angels in New York. And you can actually come in, it's a 6-week program, and learn everything you need to know about angel investing. It goes really deep. It's really excellent. There are also other ones by Parity Partners. So there's several, mainly US based, but also Go Beyond in Europe. They have angel training, so if you want to learn more. HBAN, of course, EBAN, these are the European Business Angel Networks. They also do training for people to become angels. And if you want to become a VC, that's a different part. So a venture capitalist where you're part of a fund, different kettle of fish, but start connecting with VCs. And there are some training courses now. There's an online course called VC Academy that is excellent. I cannot recommend it highly enough. We can check that out. Start putting a foot in it, tipping a toe. So there are 5 tips that I would say. How can we all be investors? Power of your purse, become a mentor, do some crowdfunding, go deeper, go to pitches, and get some training, and then just do it. Just do it.
And thank you very much. We're close to the end of this session. So as usual, as always, as our guests, if they have a special tune they are especially related to because they like it, because it sounds nice to them, because it means something important to them. So as usual, my question, what is your favorite tune, or what is the tune you want to talk about?
So the tune I want to talk about is I've Got the Power by Snap, because I think I want us all to encourage us all, women, to say we've got the power to set up our businesses to get funded. Women have the power to become angels. Men, you've got the power to start changing this economy and start investing in things you believe in and creating more opportunity. And all of us together, we have the power to change this funding ecosystem. We can do it together. So we've got the power. That's why I like it.
I don't know why, something didn't work. I was speaking to myself. There is this tune of Billy Idol called Dancing with Myself, and now it was speaking to myself by myself. You're my back. So Anne, thank you very much. It was very interesting, and it's very nice that there are, I really like this trend. I think there are very good things to do with everyone, women and men, but not putting women aside. It's definitely stupid. Don't like this. So thank you very much. Sabrine, I saw you nodding during all this session.
Of course,
It's a pity people don't see you, don't see ourselves when we are doing all this, because I saw you nodding all the time. So did you like what you hear?
Yeah, I really liked what I hear, because what I do appreciate, in explanation and presentation is that, as you just said, Gilles, she's not putting people in a box and saying men are evil, and women are the best. She's really explaining and giving an overview of the female situation. It's not only in entrepreneurship and investing, it's also, generally speaking. It's situations that happens every day at work, or even, when women try to start something. It's true that we are always have to face, the judging of the men in front of us. It's not their fault, as Anna was saying. They didn't mean it. It's just that they've been raised this way, and there's a lot of unconscious, bias, as you say, or that are playing, It's so to me, it's really inspiring, and I'm not the only one to think that. And I can state it for sure, because Anne is also one of our entrepreneur in residence at INSEAD, and she already met many students, I would say, on campus, and the feedbacks that we get from the students, from men and women, were very positive and very inspiring too. So thank you very much, Anne, for being one of our entrepreneurs in residence and being such a powerful representatives of the women community. And we hope that we will have occasion to have you soon back on campus. And we are looking forward to the TEDx that you're going to do with the INSEAD Entrepreneurship Club. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabrine. Thank you. It's thanks to you that I'm here today with yourself and Gilles. So I'm very grateful. And thanks to you that I'm part as well of the Entrepreneur in Residence program. I'm very proud and honored, and it's a huge honor, honestly. Thank you very much. I want to help as many entrepreneurs as I can, and let's make a difference in the world, because we can change it. And thank you, Gilles, for doing a great job as well of moderating this session today.
Wow. Thank you. Okay, I wish, so this is the end now, and I wish you all a very good day, and see you soon for the next show. I don't know, we don't know yet who it's going to be. It's going to be someone very nice, obviously. So see you next time. Have a good day, have a good week, have a good spring, and have a good year. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.